Well, hi there, racing fans, and welcome to public holiday today. And we got the whole team in here working nice and early, and we're going to get you out with a whole lot of good stuff on our show. Seabiscuit, we're going to be looking at a very, very interesting documentary on Seabiscuit. It's the best I've ever seen. I've watched the film. You've watched the film, haven't you?
Yeah. The South African version, Joe Biscuit's going to be good too.
Joe Biscuit.
It's a Joe Biscuit when that comes out. Joe Biscuit.
Yeah.
Racing Joburg. Yeah. Joe Biscuit.
Where's it filmed?
Turfentine.
Turfentine.
Joe Biscuit.
Joe Biscuit.
Yeah.
There are a lot of boys from the Deep South?
Deep South, yeah. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But Seabiscuit was, I actually read the book. Fantastic book.
You're an avid reader, aren't you?
A bibliograph.
Bibliograph.
That's what they say. An avid reader is a bibliograph. I read all the time. I'm reading a book that everyone should read. Everybody should read a book called, written many years ago, called Tuesdays with Maury. Mitch Albom wrote it.
Yeah.
Fantastic book.
I read Mad Magazine.
That's been off the circuit since you were at your high school prom.
I still read it.
Do you?
Spy versus Spy.
Gee, James, come on.
What they did to each other, those two, they were terrible. In fact, that should have been banned, really what they did to each other, electrocuted, poisoned, anything that they could do to each other, they did those
Well, don't get any ideas.
Yeah,
don't get the idea. Jim, let's talk sport. I've got to talk sport. And I know you're an avid golfer.
There's any sport to talk about.
You're an avid golfer. Fantastic that I listened to a clip about Tiger Woods, and they said you could not believe the crowds who came to the 18th when he was coming up to win. It was more than Trump's inauguration,
The crowd the whole way around was unbelievable.
All with him, eh?
Yeah, all with him, the whole lot. Poor little Irishman, McIlroy, with no caddy. He's got his mate carrying the bag, still got no idea, hitting the ball all over the bloody show. He's the greatest ball striker around, but I think he was 5 over for the day. He was so disappointing. Struggling. The Ryder Cup this week is going to be very, very interesting.
Tiger's playing, yeah.
Tiger's going.
Tony Finau was the last wild card.
Yeah. I like Tony Finau. Yeah. I think I like him as the best outsider to back.
Can you have bets on the Ryder Cup? Obviously, the teams to win.
All the team events, all the individuals, best
Who will win,
international.
James? Who will win?
America will win.
America will win, okay.
Yeah. They'll win, even though it's in Europe. They've got a hell of a team. Yeah. You look at this guy, Tony Finau, he's a birdie machine. I mean, absolute birdie machine. But just talking about this Tour Championship, it's the FedEx Cup finale. Now, the FedEx Cup is a tournament within the tournament. And Justin Rose had to finish 5th to get the $10 million.
Wow.
You know what happened to him? He was 6th with a hole to play. He needed the par 5 he needed to make birdie to get into 5th place. All the others are finished, and Tiger's behind him. Tiger can't win it unless Justin Rose finishes 6th, okay? He hits a drive, the longest drive on this par 5, the last par 5, runs out of fairway at the end, ends up in some thick rough, okay, and hits a 7-iron into a par 5. Now, work that out. So he got a bit of a flyer. It caught the top of the bunker. I mean, the top of the bunker, they always go back in the bunker. Bounced onto the green, 2-putted, he finished 5th.
$10 million?
$10 million.
Wow.
Good for him. I like Justin Rose. I think he's a great guy.
Nice guy.
And he has South African
So Tiger's back. Tiger went out to 1,199th when he back was getting surgery.
He's now 13th on the world.
James, let's talk soccer quickly. I can't be remiss of me to say your Arsenal boys are doing well again. You've gone up to 6th.
Well,
yeah, they're up to 6th. They won their last 4, James.
I mean, they played like fowls yesterday. I tell you what.
First half they did,
Polokwane United would have beaten Everton. I mean,
Polokwane. You could name me one player who plays for Polokwane.
Don't you know Sibusisa?
Oh no, he's a good player. He's their best player by a long way.
He's a very good player.
But Jim, I was going to say name me a player who plays for Arsenal, but that would be too easy for you. Jim, my beloved Spurs won. They turned it around. They were in 5th.
What happened to your beloved Manchester United?
Well, you know, when they said that the best team to be promoted out of the championship in years is Wolves, because they won by so far and they got all these great Portuguese players. They're a very good side. They gave Man United a run around. It was a good game. Man United had some great moments. And
what did Mourinho have to say?
No, he spoke honestly. He said they deserved their point. They played well. We just can't put the deal together. But what I can't understand, James, they mustn't tell me he's not a negative coach. They started off playing 4 at the back. They had the Colombian, they had Shaw, then they played Lindelof and Smalling. They played Fellaini in the middle of them.
Of course they did.
So they at home with 5 defenders.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, that's not football.
But that's why he's Mourinho.
Sir Alex Ferguson was there with his wife.
Yeah.
First game he's been to, he must have been so disappointed.
Yeah, he must have been spitting in his teeth. Yeah.
But Liverpool, the only unbeaten side.
And how
Chelsea
good Liverpool looking?
They're looking very good, extremely good. They're washing past sides. Man City are there. So the people who tipped Man City to be up there with Liverpool to fight for the title have got it right. Chelsea were held by what they called West Ham. And then the last thing, the Sharks look good, James, in the rain.
The Sharks look fantastic, but I must say, the Lions without an 8th man. They've got some guy
the
playing
score
there.
flattered them because they were getting beat 30-7 at one stage.
Listen, they're not the same side without some of those Springboks of theirs. And they've got guys sitting, floating around instead of working. Whiteley works. The 8th man they've got is a joke. I mean, you've got a scrum on you're defending a scrum on your line, on 5-meter scrum. And there's the 8th man, he packs down with them. And as the ball goes in, he pops up. So what happens? The Sharks just push him. He's having a look to see what's going on over the thing. You know, you've got to push. You've got to help the team.
Yeah.
Anyway, listen, we've got to move on, but there's just a couple of more South Africans we've got to meet. Brad Binder won the motorcycle GP2.
He's very good, that guy.
He's gone from GP3 to GP2, very good. And Mark Marquez, did you watch him?
Is he South African?
No, he's Spanish, okay?
He's the hooker for the Lions,
no,
isn't he?
Mark Marquez, GP1 MotoGP rider.
Okay.
The best sport on the weekend was the MotoGP. Him and Dovizioso fighting it out for 15 laps.
You love that, eh? You love that. Well, what about the horses, Jim?
Horses, well, let's go and see what we've got 3 to follow. Right, let's go to Durbanville, 18th of September. We're going to look at them round the bend. Candace Bass stepped out 2 very nice fillies here, and the one won the race, and the other one ran 4th. We picked up the one that ran 4th, but the one that won, certainly worth having a close look at. Let's go and see the 2 of them. The one that we picked out was drawn 1.
Starfighter it is. You'll see it on the inside. It gets away quite well with him. And this is at Durbanville. Draw 1. The first 2 horses we picked today come out of trap 1, so they're easy to follow. Here we go. Gets away pretty well. There's a lot of speed early on in the race, and that puts it under a little bit of pressure. Your favourite goes to front. It's a horse called Mumtaz. You'll see in the red cap, Mumtaz goes up lead. This is your favourite, and Elusive Fortune. There's a few showing pace, but the horse we found is very easy to detect. It's in the pink colours, Jim.
Yeah, it's an Argonaut filly. They're bred by Mr. Diaz and Dream World Investments. And the horse that Candace had that won the race has got the blue sleeves. That's a Gimme the Green Light filly just in front of the one we picked out. Now, you'll see that the horse with the blue sleeves goes straight down the inside, which is obviously the right place to go. And this filly in the pink comes out and out and out. If she'd gone down the inside...
Followed the stablemate.
Followed the stablemate. I think she would have run pretty close. But see, she's now 6th or 7th, pink colours.
Yeah.
Down the inside goes the filly that ends up winning the race, catches Mumtaz in the last 100. This filly under a little right-handed ride, couple of smacks. You'd think that she's not going to run anywhere. You'll see the camera angle changes. She's got no chance of running. The first 3 are gone. But she runs pretty close to them for 4th place, and really runs on well. The head-on shows it much better. So
it was a good run. Remember the name, Starfighter.
Starfighter. We then move on to Turfentine, and we're going to have a look at, this was, remember the race meetings were changed from the Vaal inside track, because the classic track, because there was a problem with it, to Turfentine, 20th of September. And the first race was a work riders race. Now, these work riders races, you watch how competent these guys are. They really do ride well. And Paul Peter ran 1, 2, 3 in this race. The first timer won the race. He looks very smart.
Very smart.
But the horse that ran second, another first timer of his, called American Hustle, Sale from Seattle, bred by Rio Stud. ran a cracking good race. So let's go and pick him up.
Yeah, this is a very interesting race. As I said earlier, draw 1 again, and in the Hyper Paints colours, it gets a little bit of a bump coming out of the gate, and then gets on its bike. But as I say, a very good race for Paul Peter, because this winner, Palace Chapel, really quickens up like a smart horse. And there's pace on, so we know that St. Michael's Supermax, they're making it good pace early. The horse we've found is American Hustle, Jim.
Yeah. American Hustle's about 5th on the inside with the whitish cap and the red colours. The winner comes down the outside and wins a hell of a good race. It's got a black cap on it. And what's in front is St. Michael, which is the horse that's had the racing from the Paul Peter yard and run a few pretty good races with Fransamella on it. That's gone for the doctor. The horse we picked up is second down the inside, does not get there, he gets one smack, and then just gets another one, but this other one absolutely cruises in. And he's a very nice horse. Patala Palace, he's bred by a lot of project, that's David Allen, the winner, very nice horse. So maybe he'll go on and win some races too. But we picked up the other one. Then we go to Greyville, and there was racing on the grass, but they did the barriers on the poly track. And it's always interesting watching these barrier trials, because you can pick up some horses. This Champagne Gold, Sean Terry's, this was on Sunday.
Is this the Pomodoro, James?
Pomodoro, bred by Claverflay out of a Fort Wood mare. Now this is
Claverflay are having a slew of winners lately, especially up in this neck of the woods.
Well, let's go and see this one. I think Eric Ngwani rode it. Aries wasn't available. Let's go and watch it. This is a very good barrier trial.
Yeah, I agree with it. It has no idea how to get out the gate. This certainly helped this horse having the experience, because I don't think it'll come out like this. It's apart from one, it gets staggeringly left. This horse is at the back, and I like the way it picks its way through, because the horse who wins the gallop is a useful horse. He's a Piero, but has baked beans between his ears, I believe Nas said. And this is the right thing from just a gentle ride. That's up in second, which wins. But have a look at the Chris van Niekerk Silks edging into the race.
How many horses do you know that have baked beans between their ears?
There's a few. You get a few.
And people?
Oh, you get a lot. Lot.
Okay, well, let's get back to the races, because this horse that wins it is the Piero. He's a very nice horse, and he's got starting source problems, is what Paul was alluding to. But watch this filly. She just gets a whip pulled through, and she absolutely canters up. Beautiful action, this filly. I think this filly can run. And I think if she had given a decent push, she would have put the horse up under pressure. So those are 3 very nice horses to follow, and we think you should have a close look at them. We're going to move on and see what shouldn't happen. We've got a couple of new funnies. They are quite hilarious. Well, you know what? Some people climb Everest, some people climb on horses.
I wonder if those are goats' babies.
Those are goats' babies. Yeah. A lot of goats' babies.
Babies. And on they got, the horse said, I'm not moving.
No.
And the goat said, this is nice and warm.
Yeah, nice and warm. We can find ourselves a nice patch. It's amazing what things that you can find if you look for them. Anyway, watch the full unabridged version on www.goldcircle.co.za, and you can watch the whole of This Shouldn't Happen. We're going to move on and see what the plum was.
Gorgeous Guest in second, Rocking Ruby. Stockade Naomi, Not Now Pussycat. Gorgeous Guest asked to run. Satara by a length. Anton Marcus and Gorgeous Guest now come through on the grandstand side. Zadora Stockades between them. Gorgeous Guest found her rhythm, goes on by. Stockades trying to close in. Zadora's on the outside. Gorgeous Guest though putting her hooves in all the right places. Gorgeous Guest won it. Stockade second, Zadora third, and Not Now Pussycat ran fourth.
Well, there's sort of Pathfork, and she's bred by Brian Bogart. Bradley,
he owns it as well.
Yeah, with Eclipse Racing, they own it as well. She's got one eye, this filly.
Yeah, she's in charge. She's the one I see.
Yeah, the one I see, which is what you'd like to be. Yeah. But she's very good.
Loves it. She is very talented.
Loves this course and distance.
And she picked up Marcus.
She got Marcus, which was a plus because she normally goes to the front and does it the hard way. He gave her a chance, let something else go.
Satara was off like a dirty shirt. So this was a very good hat-trick, James. A very comfortable hat-trick. But one's got to have a look at the merit rating here.
It's got won 4 out of the last 5. This filly's now a 5-time winner. She had a merit rating of 68 as a 4-time winner.
Wow. And
the trouble with her is that she took a bit of time to find herself. So she kept dropping in the merit rating. She came off a low merit rating of 52.
James, she ran second to my filly Zanzara 2 runs in a row before she started this run.
Yeah.
What was she then?
My Zanzara was the only horse that's beaten her in the last 5 starts.
Yeah,
and she was off a 56 in those.
That's low.
Really, really low. But it just shows you how they sometimes need a bit of time to mature. And she's got one eye, so she's
taken her time.
What about one-eyed horses?
They're not allowed to race in Australia. We've had a few sent out here before.
Yeah.
You know, in
Mauritius,
Mauritius,
they wanted to change the rule here to change it as well.
Why?
Why?
Well, James, it's normally, if you've got the left eye, you're fine, because people mount from that side. I know people always say, oh, it's got its left eye, it's lost the right eye, it'll be fine. Do people get on horses from the left?
Because they don't get kicked as easily.
Rubbish.
Horses are right.
Rubbish. Let me say to you, they get on the left because in the old days they had to have a sword. And your leg would be straight if the sword strapped it, so you could get over onto a horse. That was the reason people get over on the left. So if it's got a left eye, they're allowed to race.
I thought it was because women rode side saddle with their legs over the left-hand side.
That was the Queen.
Okay, and all women in those days rode side saddle.
Yeah, they get on from the left.
Yeah, because it's ladylike.
Very ladylike.
Yeah.
But James, the story with the one-eyed horses is an interesting one, because certain countries have debated it and said you just need one injury, and but they've proven that, as you say, they get better, they get confident.
Absolutely, and in fact, there are many stories of one-eyed horses that gone on won some very good races. But we've got to call it a day, and we'll be back with the one-eyed presenters, you and I, with current affairs.
Best race time odds, transparency of betting markets, friendly and super efficient staff, the ability to negotiate odds, a full service tote with no limits, which is very important for exotic players, loyalty program, speedy withdrawal of funds, full odds, multiple betting, and excellent in-play markets. These are just some of the many reasons that come to mind as to why I believe, as a serious punter, there is no online operator in South Africa that can realistically come close to matching what Interbet has to offer. Put simply, there's no other site like it, and the ability to negotiate odds adds to my fun and enjoyment. Interbet, where the professionals bet.
Hi, welcome to another edition of Current Affairs. No stakes racing to show you, but as Jim said, you watch some good stuff when you see Seabiscuit and Your Call. But interesting things have been happening all around the country. And, we're always banging the drum about protocols, about being able to travel your horses. And it's a really protracted thing that's affected from breeders, trainers, everybody in this country trying to get their horses to race internationally. But my mate Charlie Appleby, James, I was just looking and reading up about him, how he has travelled lately. Now he's becoming so seasoned at it because they get on a plane and they go. And as you know, they went to Australia. They took that horse Jungle Cat to Australia. Jungle Cat had won 3 over the season. He'd won a group, the season being the carnival, in Dubai. He'd won a Group 1. I think the Alcoz, he's a 6 furlong horse. Right. And this was a 7 furlong. He went there. He also had Blair House to run in a Group 1 in Australia. So he's gone into town to win these races. He gets them on the plane and they go. Now bear in mind, in the interim, he went out to Woodbine in Canada and he won the Group 1 there. He won the Prix Neil in France. He won the National Stakes, another Group 1, just over a short period of time, a few days. Shipped them. And I keep coming back to how something's got to happen. We have horses in our yards, we're giving them flu injections, we're taking time out of their careers, African horse sickness injections, because we want to be able to get these protocols in place. And James, it just seems to be that we're marking time.
No, they told me we're moving, we're going.
You were at the Asian conference, weren't you?
Toddy says we're on the way, no doubt about it. Interesting about getting back to Charlie, 9 of the last 16 runners that he's run overseas, not in England, have won.
Fantastic trainer.
That's an unbelievable.
He's a good lad too, James.
He's a great guy.
He's a really good guy, Charlie Appleby.
And he's got, Derek works for him.
Yeah, Derek's his farrier.
Main farrier.
Bear in mind, James, this year Charlie won the Derby.
Yeah.
So he's having just the most incredible run. He's the most laid-back guy you'll ever see.
Yeah. He deserves every bit of it.
Yeah, he's probably got great steely resolve.
Just talking about the Derby, Young Rascal ran in the Derby.
Okay.
For Bernard Cantor, I think it was second or third.
Yes,
favourite. You know the horse, he's by Teller. Well, he came back to winning form, won the Group 3 at Newbury, with Jim Crowley aboard him for William Haggis and Bernard. Nice to see him win.
You won a Group 3?
Big, strong, gutsy horse, Galloper.
Yeah, he's Galloper. That's why they stuck him in the Derby.
He'll probably end up as a Melbourne Cup horse, this horse.
Is that right? Is he as stout as that?
Yeah, definitely, no doubt about it.
Okay. I know you got some stuff on the sales. Before we touch on the sales, I was going through the Australian news, and there they were talking about American Pharaoh because they've shuttled him. And the ones that were sold, that have been sold of the American Pharaohs, these are the prices they're getting from the first crop. These are Aussie dollars. 3.1 million, 2.1 million, 1.95 million, 1.7 million, 1.7 million, 1.7 million, 1.4 million. These are these American Pharaohs, and he is an 8-time Group 1 winner. He's the highest rated horse in stud in Australia, and they're paying big money. Funny enough, I analysed his pedigree, James. It's not as strong as some of the other great horses that have been there. He's just a great racehorse and a specimen of note. Time will tell. Time will tell.
Well, talking about the Triple Crown winners, Justify. We know he's going to Ashford, Coolmore in America, and they've set his fee at $150,000. Now, sit and work it out. I think American Pharaoh stood at $250, if I'm not wrong.
I don't know, James. What was Frankel? £125,000.
But if you pay the $150 for Justify, you pretty much sure, if you get a decent specimen, to get your money back and make a profit. Make a proper profit. So dealing in bloodstock on that basis is a great way to go. Go and buy decent mares. You see Mandy Pope buy all these decent mares for millions and millions of dollars. She sells for the top prices.
Yeah.
Sells for $2-3
Imagine what
million.
Coolmore's making. They belong to these stallions.
Yeah.
And the guys are paying $150 every time. And they're going to 2 hemispheres and they're shuttling, and it's absolutely amazing. And just talking about Frankel, as I said, he was 125. He's at his 31st stake winner already.
Yeah, he's going along extremely well.
Yeah.
Talking about sales, Keelan had their 13-day sale, the biggest sale on the universe. 2,917 went through the ring. And
2,900. What did you
2,000
200 a day? No. 14 times 2,
yeah,
yeah.
they did more than 200 a day.
More than 200 a day.
And they averaged 129,000.
US.
Yeah, and it was up 7.3%. 70 million more than last year.
It's a lot of
Yeah,
money.
it's a lot of money. And you know that probably the second biggest sale on the planet is the Magic Millions June sale.
January sale.
No, June. When June you get
numbers
broodmares
wise.
and
Yes,
yearlings
yes.
and weanlings
Yes,
and you name
yes.
it, everything other. I think
They keep going up,
They,
those sales.
they take a huge amount of
Yeah.
horses through there.
Yeah, they
and the
do.
way they run it, it's amazing. They have
Clockwork.
those horses out of those stalls
Clockwork, James.
and new horses in the stalls.
They don't miss a
properly
beat.
run. Yeah, absolutely.
Brilliantly
Yeah,
run.
Yeah.
They've got their big January sale coming. They already. I spoke to Chook.
yeah.
Chook, Barry had been up to Keeneland, and Chook had had her break, and she's gone out there, and they've got the catalogue, and she says it looks phenomenal.
January sale.
Yeah,
Well, we'd love to be going over there and buying some. That's
yeah.
what it would all be.
That's what it's all about. Yeah,
Talking about big horses, a Roaring Lion, they're talking about taking him to the Breeders' Cup. And you know, from the same stable, Cracksman and Enable
Sure.
are both getting ready for the Arc de Triomphe. Yeah. Yeah.
oh, should be some race. Eh?
Yeah. They're just, people have said that it's actually not that strong this year.
Well, Enable's coming back to defend her title.
Yeah.
She only had the one run, James, on the Polly.
Yeah.
She trotted up a 4-horse field,
Exactly.
but over a trip to see that she was ready. So the Breeders' Cup will be very good, James.
Very interesting coming up, and obviously in a couple of weeks' time you've got Everest in Australia.
That's massive, eh?
What else have you got there?
James, I've also got Debt Collector. The Debt Collector was in Singapore.
Yes.
Debt Collector bounced right back. This was Singapore's Horse of the Year in 2016. And it bounced. It's by Thorne Park, I think it is.
Yes, sir.
It won the Raffles Cup, Group 1.
Yeah. Well, if you watch the card, it was very interesting because a whole lot of South Africans were riding there, and South Africans were represented there. And you know, Ricardo Lagrange's taken over. Ricardo Lagrange,
Yeah.
has taken over Pat Shaw's yard.
Yes.
And he won the
With great success.
They won the undercard, which is called the Eldorado. Okay, with a very nice horse. This horse, keep an eye on him. His name's King Louis. He looks like he could be.
We've had a Louis the King.
Yeah, this horse is named King Louis. He's by Medaglia d'Ora.
Ours was by Black Manalouche.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, he won the Eldorado, the Raffles Cup. Michael Rod, I think, rode them both.
Yeah.
Or maybe Glenn Boss rode one of them.
Rod rode the winner of the big one.
Yeah, Rod rode the winner of the big one. And Tuesday night, that's tomorrow night. Okay, if you watch a show on Monday.
Yes.
Tuesday night, tomorrow night, is the big Singapore International Jockeys meeting. All these guys went out there and rode. Muzieni and Lyle.
Hewitson, yeah, he's
Lyle
been
and
at Aldo
de Meyer.
good
They're all
riders.
riding over the weekend there, so they're getting a feel of the track. And then they've got the big international meeting, which is going to be well worth watching.
Didn't Tony Millard have a good weekend?
He had a good weekend. He had 3 winners, Tony, which is very nice for him, Shotton. And
James, what about this St. Ledger? Flag of Honour's won them both.
yeah,
This is some stayer, eh?
Aidan O'Brien. Yeah, He's-
Galileo.
Yeah, he's a fantastic horse and certainly stays like an unwanted niece, as we said last week. He really is a nice horse, you know. Got lots going for him. There's not much else.
We got sales. Any sales coming up, James? There is a ready to run coming up.
Yeah, that's a couple of months' time.
So all the catalogues out.
Yeah, catalogues out.
I've got the catalogue out.
Should be well worth having a look at.
Yeah, I've been through that to see. There's some good horses coming
You
off that
need
sale.
looking for new stock. You must be looking for new stock, getting new owners, get some new
You're
people
looking
in.
for new owners. Stock-wise, you need new owners. You always
Yeah.
need new people in.
Oh, well, you know what? Keep it rolling. That's what it's all about.
Yeah.
We're going to watch Seabiscuit. We call it a day from here. We've seen all the news, and we hope you have a very good Heritage Day and enjoy a Seabiscuit. Well, enjoy this insert on Seabiscuit. Some of the best footage I've ever seen. I don't know where they get this stuff from, these guys, but it really is a great story. And you don't have to watch a movie, you just go and watch a story. Have a great week's racing. We'll be back next week.
Miles inland from the Mendocino coast, just south of Willits, California, lies Ridgewood Ranch. It's a place of stunning natural beauty, a place where woodlands and streams and wildlife are being actively preserved and protected. But everything changed when a past resident of this ranch blasted back into public consciousness. His name was Seabiscuit, and in the late 1930s, he was the most beloved racehorse in America. A best-selling book and blockbuster movie had made him a star again, more than 50 years after his death. And since Ridgewood Ranch was Seabiscuit's home for the second half of his life, Ridgewood found itself with a new preservation mission, one that extended to buildings, memorabilia, and history. I wanted to know more about this historic ranch and its most famous resident, so I sat down in the front yard with Tracy Livingston, president of the Seabiscuit Heritage Foundation. I asked him to start from the beginning.
Well, the ranch goes back to the 1850s. It's been a working ranch. Today it's still a working ranch. In 2002, when Laura Hildebrand wrote her book about Seabiscuit, then that kind of opened the door for the Seabiscuit phenomena to start. 2004, we started the Seabiscuit Heritage Foundation to help restore some of the historic buildings. We have about 23 of those buildings here on site still. There's just a number of things that we're doing kind of all simultaneously.
Now, Seabiscuit actually lived here, correct?
Yes.
At what part of his career?
He first came here in 1939. He was recuperating from an injury on the track. And then he went back to the track in 1940. He ran one more race, and that was the Santa Anita Handicap, the 100 Grander. He won that race, and then he came back here near in 1940. He retired here. He was here for 7 years, and then in 1947, 14 years old, he would pass away.
That's pretty young. Why did he die so young?
Nobody seems to know. He did have a heart condition, and they did an autopsy on him. There was a problem with his heart, and they also noticed at the same time that he had a pair of oversized lungs.
It made him a great racehorse. He had the enlarged heart, enlarged lungs.
Right.
A lot of people know that was true also of Secretariat,
right.
Famous racehorse, but it didn't work too well for longevity. Now, Seabiscuit, before he came to prominence and started winning, was kind of a gangly, unattractive horse, wasn't he?
Well, you know, there's...
Or is that part of the myth?
For me, it's part of the myth. He wasn't a very big horse. He was 15-1. Man of War was his grandfather, and so he had tremendous bloodlines. Seabiscuit, to me, was a real pretty horse. He was a bay, and he wasn't really striking, but he was a well-put-together horse.
The book and the movie rocketed him to fame in modern times. How accurate were those, in your opinion?
I think the book was very accurate. She captured the time, no doubt. In the movies, you know, they take a little leeway, you know, here and there. In the movie, it depicted that Charles Howard only had one son, and that was Frankie. He was killed on the ranch, and he actually had 4 sons. Oh. So there was a few liberties that they took in the movie.
You know, the story of Seabiscuit takes a rather abrupt change when Charles Howard becomes the owner of the horse. What did he do differently that resulted in the success that Seabiscuit had?
Well, Tom Smith was Charles Howard's trainer. He just connected with him. He had a special quality. And actually, they started winning with Seabiscuit almost immediately. It was just a few weeks after that Charles Howard bought Seabiscuit, and they started winning on the track. And it might have been because of Tom Smith, some of his unconventional methods of training, a little bit of gadgetry, and there was just a connection. And there was also a connection with Red Pollard with Seabiscuit, and that was depicted in the movie, and that was said to be very true.
Now, Red Pollard, was he the primary jockey? Because I know there was Red and also George Wolfe that both rode him in very important races.
Right. Red Pollard would be the primary jockey, and then, of course, the War Admiral, the big match race, Georgie Wolfe rode him. Georgie Wolfe is probably one of the greatest all-time jockeys, period. And then Red Pollard was just a so-so jockey. I mean, after Seabiscuit retired in 1940, you know, Red Pollard really didn't get any great rides from then on. But he loved racing so much that he stayed in it until he passed away. He was a valet or a valet, and go to the tracks and take care of equipment for different jockeys. So, yeah, there was a real connection with you know, all three of them: Tom Smith, you know, Red Pollard, and Charles Howard.
Now, you said that it really started happening once Tom Smith got involved with the training of this horse. Do you think it was unusual for that time for a trainer and a racehorse to have that kind of connection?
Well, based on the book and the movie, you know, that this was an old, savvy kind of guy. It was
he trained cow ponies.
Cow ponies, and you know, he just knew horses, you know, and so he seen something in Seabiscuit that other people couldn't see, you know, and Seabiscuit, you know, he had the great bloodlines behind him, so.
Was there something intangible, though? I mean, some kind of heart. I don't mean in a, you know, a literal sense heart, but some kind of spirit that he was able to tap into, that horse could just give his all when it was required?
Well, I think it wasn't long after that that Tom Smith started training him that he seen that he had that within him, you know.
Yeah.
So he dialed into that. He pushed that.
So this happened in what, the mid 1930s?
Yeah, Seabiscuit was born in 1933, and then in 1936 is when Charles Howard bought him, and then Charles Howard continued to race him until he was a 7-year-old, you know, which is kind of unheard of today, and that's when he ran his last race, was in 1940.
Yeah, most racehorses are retired long before that.
Long before.
These days.
Yeah.
You know, historically, that time America was in the throes of the Great Depression. And this racehorse and the success story and the human element, the human drama involved in it, captivated the country's hearts and imaginations. Why do you think that was? What was there about America at that time that allowed this to just become a phenomenon?
America was looking for a hero. They found that hero through Seabiscuit. Seabiscuit was made to be a West Coast horse. You know, he was born and bred in Kentucky, and so Charles Howard really took advantage of whatever he could to make a good sale. So he started promoting Seabiscuit as this West Coast horse, and everybody, I think, loved Seabiscuit, but I mean, there became a real rivalry between the East Coast and the West Coast.
Was War Admiral an East Coast horse?
Yes, definitely.
Was Seabiscuit perceived as an underdog?
He was, but if you look at the stats of the races that War Admiral and Seabiscuit, that they both raced in, that there was a lot of people predicted that Seabiscuit was going to win that race.
So it wasn't quite as unexpected as in the movie?
For a lot of people it wasn't. You
Yeah.
know, that Charles Howard just kind of baited the owner, a War Admiral, into that race. And the owner really didn't have anything to gain, and he had everything to lose. He was racing against a Triple Crown winner. You know, War Admiral was at the time.
What about the life of Seabiscuit after racing? He was a stallion. Was he put out to stud? Is that what he went on to do?
1939, when he first came here, and he was recuperating from his injury, when he got well enough, they bred him to 7 mares. And then he went back out on the track, raced his final race. He came back here, and then there were 7 little biscuits on the ground. And so he,
Is that what you call them?
Yes.
Little
yeah,
biscuits.
Yeah. So he sired 106 foals all total.
How did they do in racing?
It was kind of a mix. They didn't do really well. There was kind of a theory that I have that maybe the reason why they didn't do really well. In 1941, you know, we had the start of World War II. What happens was that Santa Anita racetrack in 1933 that Charles Howard helped build, in 1942 it becomes the Santa Anita internment camp for the Japanese. And so you have Tanforan and a lot of other racetracks that become internment camps for the Japanese. So here was a time between 1942 and 45 where, you know, Seabiscuit, his protege, should be winning a lot of races, running a lot of races, and he doesn't have that opportunity. Yeah. Then in 1947, when Seabiscuit, he passes away, racing starts to get back up on its feet, and then he just really doesn't have a chance to take and produce any more horses after that 1947.
Yeah. timing was kind of bad, I
Yeah,
suppose.
when they talk about timing is everything, that's true.
Well, Tracy, I'd like to hear a little bit more about what's happening at Ridgewood today, what your future plans are. Will you show us around?
I sure will.
All righty, we appreciate that.
All right, great.
Charles Howard made his millions in the automobile industry, but his real love was Ridgewood Ranch, a Northern California working farm and ranch that he purchased in 1919. Ridgewood is best known today as the retirement home of Howard's spectacular racehorse, Seabiscuit. Tracy Livingston, president of the Seabiscuit Heritage Foundation, showed me the Howard family home and gave me a walking tour of restoration efforts at the ranch.
We're at Seabiscuit Stud Barn. This was built in 1940 for Seabiscuit. That's the original weather vane that's been always on this barn. Charles Howard had about 20 stallions at different times. Kayak 2 won the Santa Anita Handicap in 1939, took second to Seabiscuit in 1940. And so he was a great horse. Then this was a groom's room. This is where Sarge stayed. He took care of the stallions here. This was Seabiscuit's stall right here. He would look out, and then he would take and go out his paddock and get his exercise. He would die right outside of his paddock door.
Now, could he kind of come and go out of his
Yeah, he would
door?
come and go, and his bantam hen and a rooster would hop up on his back.
Huh.
And then Seabiscuit would just walk around the paddock
And
with
he
these
liked that.
chickens on his back. He'd like that. He'd come into his stall, turn around, go back out, and when he got tired of them, he just gave them a shake, and off they'd come.
Wow.
And then on the left-hand corner of that stall, there was a barn cat. And she had several litters of kittens in that one corner. And Seabiscuit would come up and sniff them and never bother him.
Huh.
You know, so as long as things were done on his terms, you know, he was good with things.
Wow. Charles Howard had other stallions, obviously, besides Seabiscuit in here. Nor, there's a story about him.
Yeah, Nora was a great horse. She beat Citation on 3 different occasions. And so I put these signs up. And about a year after I put the signs up, this lady, Janny, came on to one of my tours. There's about 25 people on the tour. And she looked at the sign and she saw, Tracy, that's really a nice sign. And I says, well, thank you. She says, but you got his name spelled wrong. And that's N-O-I-R is what I had before. And so I said, okay. So everybody got a good laugh. And so I went ahead and had a new sign made. About a year later, she came on another tour. I said, what a nice sign. She says, but Nora was never up here.
She couldn't have told you that
Yeah.
the first time.
So not all of Charles Howard's stallions ever came to Ridgewood Ranch.
Oh, I love this.
Yeah, it's a 1948 Diamond T, and Seabiscuit would have never been in this particular truck, but the cow ponies would have been. They would put the saddles in here. Up above, when they were traveling, they would hook up the horses with the chains. They'd throw hay in here too, so they keep the horses occupied just like they do today.
They would just straddle the wheel well?
Yeah, they would just deal with it. We used this to advertise the homecoming of Seabiscuit to the town of Willits.
Many of the buildings at Ridgewood are more than 100 years old, including the carriage house, which is in the early stages of restoration.
This is one of the first things that people would see back in the day, and so they made them a little fancier than most buildings. They brought the carriages in sometimes that what they would do, the wheels would actually hit these bars and kind of help center the carriages. We put a new roof on it about 2 years ago. Now it's kind of in a state of preservation to where we can go on to another building that has more urgent needs.
Like the bathhouse, for instance, a place where the rich and famous once played.
That's going to be our next project. Bing Crosby, Clark Gable, Dorothy Lamour, a lot of the Hollywood luminaries would come here and party. And this is also where Shirley Temple learned how to swim. If we don't take and do something this year, we may lose the buildings by next year. There was 2 barns that Charles Howard had. This is the North Mirror barn.
This is the old original logo.
Yes, there are 22 stalls in this barn. And so when we do the restoration, you know, those won't be touched. These are folding size stalls. They're like 18 by 18. We think Seabiscuit may have been in this stall when he first came here in '39 because he had Chula came up here with him. Chula was his buddy and they would want to have Chula next to him. And if you look to the left on this stall here, you'll see a wooden partition inside. And so they would drop that partition down and they could see his buddy. But he wouldn't have been here very long because if you have a barn full of mares and you've got a stallion, it really doesn't work out too well.
Yeah. Well, now here you've got another one of those curved corners like we saw in the stud barn. That took a lot of work to build and to restore. Is there a reason for that?
Yeah, I think so. I think there's maybe a couple reasons. One, cosmetically, it looks great. And the other reason is even today we have an average of 50 to 55 inches of rain. And so they would actually work the horses or walk the horses around in the dirt area underneath the roof, you know, and so they would be walking around this area here and they could be coming from both ways to give them a chance to take and see what's coming from the other direction.
Oh,
yeah.
So it wasn't as much of a blind corner.
That's right. There's a couple other things. You notice this stall door is not a Dutch door, it's just a solid door. Up above, they would dump grain into these hoppers here, and the hoppers would come down into this wooden bin, and then they would scoop up the grain, bring it out, and they would go to these little doors here, which would open up. There would be a triangular feed pan here. They'd dump the grain in and close it. Then up above on each stall, there was trap doors. And so they'd pull those doors up, they'd dump the hay in. So they never really had to get in with the horses too much. So when we go in here, tell me what you notice when we go inside the stall.
Well, it's cooler.
That's right. It was designed that way. It's got a very high ceiling, and also you have the hallway that goes down the center. You have the breezeways on either end, so it's definitely cooler.
Now, Tracy, I know there are some Seabiscuit horses around. We saw a cute little paint filly that had Seabiscuit blood. So does this one. Tell me about this horse.
Well, this is Bronze Sea, thoroughbred, born on Seabiscuit's birthday last year, May 23rd. The owner is Jacqueline Cooper from our American Legends horse farm in Redwood Valley. And then she came over here and shortly after her birth and has been here ever since.
So how much does this horse look like Seabiscuit?
The coloration is very close, bay, and not a lot of striking things about her. Just kind of a little plain Jane, very well put together. Nice little filly, good temperament.
Well, Tracy, thanks for sharing a little bit of the history of Ridgewood Ranch and Seabiscuit with us, as well as kind of a look into the future. Best of luck to you, and thanks for being on our show.
Thanks for coming.
Your world of winners is now online at www.teletrack.com. Simply subscribe to log into your account from any mobile device in South Africa and access a wide variety of content from our membership package options. Listen in via a live audio stream, catch live racing locally and internationally, or view a wide variety of Teletrack magazine shows to stay informed and updated on the go at any time. It's never been easier. Go to teletrack.com now.